1564 AD to whenever he died, was well known for borrowing from existing literature when writing his plays. Romeo and Juliet is pretty much lifted entirely from Arthur Brooks' poem The Tragical History of Romeus and Juliet. Dude didn't even change the names. And as recent Shakespeare scholarship has established, the famed play William Shakespeare Presents Hamlet was lifted wholesale from the volume you are about to enjoy. To Be or Not to Be. To Be or Not to Be is both the earliest recorded example of the books as game genre, as well as the first instance ever in the then newish English language that was kicking around of an adventure being chosen by you, the reader. We've gone ahead and added illustrations, plus we've taken the liberty of marking with tiny York skulls the choices Shakespeare himself made when he plagiarized this book back in olden times. They're there in case you wish to put yourself in Shakespeare's shoes, reading this book as he did, stealing plot elements wholesale, and classing up the language as he/you went/go. However, that is not the only way to read this book. Feel free to explore your other options, as each time you read this book, you can go on a different adventure, assuming you don't read the book like 3 quadrillion times, at which point the adventures will start to repeat, and they'll probably seem pretty familiar long before then anyway. Now, take yourself back to history, when ghosts walked the earth and nobody knew velociraptors were even a thing. Steel yourself to experience the magic of Shakespeare as it was meant to be experienced, in a non-deterministic narrative structure where you end up thinking maybe you made a wrong decision, so you mark the pages you were just on, so you can always go back and make a different choice if you die for some dumb reason. To be or not to be, that is the adventure. Choose your character. Man, what if I just read the acknowledgements instead? Whoa, slow down there, cowboy. At the end of that last bit, you were supposed to make a choice, and then jump to the page that reflects that choice. Instead of following those instructions, you just kept reading what came next like this is an ordinary book. This book is crazy insane. How are you even acting like this is an ordinary book? You die without even having chosen your character. The end. And your final score is maybe learn to read books better sometime. Out of 1,000. Dude, that's not a very good score, I gotta say. You have just been born. Congratulations, good work on that thing. Now, surprise! Babies are boring, so we're gonna jump ahead in time to a point where you're an adult and you've already lived a bunch of your life. But I promise most of what we're skipping over was really dull. You ate a lot and slept a lot and made some friends, tears were shed, makeouts were totally had, etc. It was a bunch of high school stuff. The awesome stuff starts now. So, let's begin, my friend. Remind me again who you are. Are you Ophelia? She's an awesome lady in her late 20s with a calm, competent, and resourceful demeanor. She's got a +1 bonus to science, but she's also got a -1 weakness against water, so heads up. Hamlet? He's an emo teen in his early 30s. Also, he's the Prince of Denmark. Hamlet has a +1 resistance to magic, but there's no magic in this adventure, so this never gets mentioned again as of right now. Hamlet Sr.? He's the King of Denmark, 50 years old. He's super good at fighting and leading men into battle and naps. Let's say +1 to each? Look, bottom line, he's an unstoppable machine of death, and should you choose to be him, you may experience kingly glory. Play as Ophelia. Play as Hamlet. Play as Hamlet Sr. You are Hamlet. You're 30 years old and you're back living at home, but it's okay, because your home is a castle. That's right, ladies. You're a prince. Things have been rough lately. You had been trying to focus on your studies at Wittenberg University, where you and your bros, Horatio Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, all hang out. But you were called home because your father died. Then, your dead dad's brother, Claudius, married your mom, Gertrude, 2 weeks later. Yep, it's made you kind of upset. You raced home to comfort her, but she's married your uncle, and that is weird. You feel weird. Right now, you're in the audience chamber of your father's castle, here in sunny Denmark. King Claudius is here addressing his court. Laertes and Polonius are here too. Laertes is kind of a jerk, and Polonius is his father. Polonius is also the father of Ophelia, whom you're totally sweet on. She's not here though. Who knows what adventure she's having as we speak, while you're stuck in this drafty castle room listening to other people talk about their feelings. Speaking of speaking, just now Laertes says something about how now that Claudius is king and he's attended the coronation, is it okay for him to go back to France? Claudius says, "Sure." Wait a minute. You'd love to leave too and go back to school, away from this weird incesty thing your mother's gotten herself into. It's so gross and weird. Ask Claudius for permission to go back to school. Hold your tongue and just wait around. You hold up your hand and open your mouth, but before you can say anything, Claudius addresses you directly, calling you his son. On the one hand, that's entirely appropriate, especially since he just married your mom like 2 weeks ago. But on the other hand, he has brought creepy uncle to new heights. Points for that, maybe? Insult him under your breath by saying you're more than kin, i.e., you're related more than once now as both father/son and uncle/nephew, but less than kind, i.e., this relationship you're in is unnatural. In real life, people think up zingers like this on the spot all the time, so this totally makes sense. Say, "You're not my real dad," and storm out of the room. He straight up ignores your zinger. King Claudius goes on to tell you, in so many words, to buck up, stop dressing in black, stick around for a while, and have a little fun. He says all the feelings you're having are boring and wimpy. Your mom echoes his sentiments. Dude, your own mom just called you a wimp. You agree to stick around in Denmark for a while. They leave, and you're suddenly alone. Woohoo! You're finally alone, Hamlet. What are you gonna do? Talk to yourself about how your life is in ruins and how everything just sucks. Stand around quietly until something happens. Okay, you talk out loud to the empty room, and what do you say? I'll tell you what you say. You say you wish your skin could literally melt off your body, revealing a skeleton that gives a double thumbs down before crumbling into dust. You say that you thought your mom really loved your dad, but now that she's married Claudius less than a month after Dad's death, either love itself is fake or she was faking love, and either way it doesn't matter because you've lost faith in your own mother. You say to the empty room, in all seriousness, that you want to kill yourself. Whoa, bro, this book just got real. Kill yourself. Don't kill yourself. While you're busy doing that, your friend Horatio bumps into you and tells you, A, he's in town for your dad's funeral/mom's wedding, and that they serve leftover appetizers from one at the other. B, ghosts are real. C, he's seen one and so have a bunch of other guys. D, it keeps showing up at the same time, and E, he's pretty sure it's the ghost of your dad. Finally, some adventure, some closure. You agree that you'll come with him tonight to see the ghost when it shows up again. It's such an obvious decision that it kind of feels like you don't even have a choice in the matter. Agree to go with Horatio tonight to see the ghost when it shows up again. I'll be there, 11:30 sharp, you say, and Horatio leaves, satisfied. Well, now you have 8 hours to blow before it's time to meet ghosts. What do you want to do, Hamlet? Be Ophelia for a while. Play solitaire. Right, you're Ophelia. You are a beautiful and independent young woman, and although it makes you roll your eyes when you think about it, you've fallen in love with a prince. Prince Hamlet is funny and charming, and he seems to like you a lot. You try not to get too excited about it, because you're worried you might jinx it. But things really are going great. Only it's been hard doing the long-distance thing while you've both been off at university. And while you've loved studying capital S science, and you're sure Hamlet's loved studying capital U undeclared, it hasn't been easy. Now that you're both back together in Denmark for his father's funeral and his mother's second wedding, it's been harder still. Hamlet's really sad, and you can't blame him for that since, his dad died. But you wish there was something you could do to help him. When you last saw him, Hamlet mentioned how the castle seemed cold and drafty, and for some reason it stuck with you. You've been sitting at your desk, trying to think of something you could give him that would help with that, a way of cheering him up a little, remind him he's still got people who care about him. He wears these cloaks all the time, but then he's taking them off in warm rooms and putting them back on in cold ones. If only there was some way you could keep the rooms at a uniform temperature, he wouldn't need to be constantly adjusting his clothes throughout the day. But to do that, you'd need some way of measuring heat, and a way of transporting it through the castle, perhaps through a series of pipes. Your thoughts are interrupted by a knock at your door.
Who is it?
You call.
It's me.
Says your brother.
Come on, let me in.
Let him in. Tell him you're busy. You open the door for your brother.
You can come in,
You say.
but I don't want to hear any opinions about my personal life. If you sleep with Hamlet, you're a slut.
He says. Slam the door in his face. Invite him to enter your room.
Bam!
That felt good. Larity shouts through the door that he's sorry and just wanted to say goodbye before he left for France. But when you open the door a crack, he sticks his head in and says,
I'm just saying. Have sex with him and you're damaged goods.
You slam the door in his face again, barely missing his nose. You shout through the door that if you're damaged goods, he's an entire shelf of unsellable eggs that went off weeks ago. And also, as your brother, he's got an entirely unhealthy interest in your sex life.
Nuh-uh. You're unhealthy.
Larity shouts in return, and then you hear him stomp away down the hall. What a jerk, and his retorts don't even make sense. Return to desk. At your desk, you continue your work on the problem of automatically heating the castle. Hours turn into days and you're generally left alone by both your family and your boyfriend. Your father ignoring you is no big deal, and while you're a little worried about Hamlet not stopping by more often, he has asked you to leave him alone for a while he mourns, and you're respecting his wishes. But if you're going to be honest with yourself, you've also just gotten really absorbed in this problem. You decide to split the problem into sections, delivering heat and knowing when to deliver heat. It would be possible to put servants in every room and have them report when it's too cold, but that's both expensive and unreliable. It depends on the servant, the warmth of their clothes, how much they love to lie to people about what temperature their skin is sensing, and so on. You're wandering the castle grounds when it hits you. You've been thinking about how water expands when it freezes, and how that could be used to tell you when it's cold, but it's not much use for measuring temperatures outside the freezing point. Your father, Polonius, happens to wander by, talking to himself about the evils of drink, and you realize, alcohol! The right alcohol would expand linearly with heat, and by putting it in a slender glass vial, you could measure the size of that liquid, which would correspond 1-to-1 with temperature. Put the same markings on each of these glass vials at the same temperatures, and you've got a universal, comparable, and consistent way of measuring heat. You wouldn't have to rely on a servant's impression. They could just tell you what line the alcohol has reached. You run back to your room to start working on the prototype. Just as you complete it, you hear a knock at your door.
Who is it?
You call, and oh my, who should answer from the other side of the door? Seriously, who should answer from the other side of the door? Your boyfriend Hamlet. Your father Polonius. Your best friend Dormicio Mimus. You decide you want Hamlet to be on the other side of the door. Open it, and Hamlet really is at the door. That's so freaky. How'd you do that? Hamlet steps into your room. You haven't seen each other for a while. It's so great to see him. You run up and throw your arms around him and you kiss. It's just like old times. But the moment passes, and when you look at his face, you can see concern written all over it. He's troubled by something. Ask him what's troubling him. You ask him what's wrong, and, well, there's no other way to put this, so I'll give it to you straight. Hamlet tells you about a spooky ghost and a plan for murdering his stepfather Claudius, pretender to the throne. I'll be frank, it sounds crazy. A ghost? Murder? But he is your friend and lover, and you're not going to leave him hanging out to dry. As gently as you can, you tell him you're pretty sure ghosts don't exist. But even if they do, he needs to be certain that the ghost he saw was actually the ghost of his father. What if it was some other ghost trying to mess things up? That seems to give him pause. Hamlet admits he never actually asked the ghost for information only his dad would know. It's possible the ghost could be an imposter.
I'll come with you tonight, sweetie.
You say.
We'll go together, and if a ghost shows up, we'll figure out what to do.
You're confident no ghost will appear, and this will all just go away. You take his hand and squeeze. Hamlet looks up at you, and you can see his relief. Okay, he says, smiling. Go to see the ghost that evening.